Welcome back to another episode of Draw with me. So I'm going to go over a little bit more of the advanced items that I built into the network map diagram. So the layout's changed a little bit. On the menu, you can go up to Maps and then down to Network Maps, which is where we're going to be playing. This is just for logical maps. There's the link to the other physical floor maps that we went over earlier. I wiped this out, so starting from fresh, I kind of wanted to show you how to do more of an advanced kind of map setup here. So we'll see we have categories. This is something we can use where if we want to, for instance, draw an object that you only have to edit once, but you can insert it into multiple maps. And then when you edit the master copy, it's going to propagate through all your other maps. And I'll go over that later. This is the search, so you can search whatever you want. And these are the maps that we have in here. Like I said, currently there are none. And then these are miscellaneous things you can use, so you can export and restore. You can see the history of the current map you're on. You can create a new map, and then the delete features. Here we have the floor plan menus. So this is all the options you can use while you're drawing in here. If you don't like it on the top, I also built a sidebar menu, so you can always leave it here. I kind of like it on the side more. Um, I just left the option, so you can move it to the left or right, leave it in line if you want. It's kind of out of the way on the side, depending on the size of your monitor. So if we stick it back in line for now, we'll go over it. These are the options to move the bar. This will change your working screen size. Um, you can also set it into full screen mode. You can turn on and off the grid. Here you can add in a background if you want to, for whatever reason, stick any kind of images behind the network diagram you're drawing, you can. Classification, I might change how this looks, but basically what happens is, let's say you draw a giant map for just say a hub, you can classify certain parts of the map. So for instance, if you're working in say an ISP or a colo, you can classify a set of the map to be part of one customer. And then when you do that, you'll have the option to just show only that customer on the map. So you can filter out what you want. We can go over that later as well. Save and export, kind of self-explanatory. Save it as an image. Status bar, this auto save, so this should tell you if there's any pending changes. The only time there would be any pending changes and something doesn't seem to be saving is if the user gets logged out, like if the timer expires. And then the edit objects, we'll go over these when I draw one. So the first thing I want to do is let's kind of design something like we are an ISP serving a couple customers. We'll go from there. So the first thing I want to do is draw out um, my main router and whatever I'm feeding the customer from. So what we'll do is we'll call this our test ISP or router. And we will do, you can either assign the category here if you want to, or you can do it later. So I will call this ISP core router. And we'll create the map. Once you create the network map name and you give it a category, you'll see on the left side in brackets will be the category, the right side will be the map name. This lets you filter out just that particular section. So if we go to create another one, we will call this test ISP WDM one. create that map. So once you have all of these categories, you can pick one that you want, or you can look at all of them. So let's work on setting up the core router, and I'm going to move this over. All right. So now I'm going to create just a test router. Um, this would be something simple. A couple MX cores, and a couple Juniper switches. If you were to build the wiring in the wiring database, you can actually just insert the device and then tell it to insert that plus whatever specific port you want, and it would insert everything on its own for you, and you just have to arrange it. For now, I am going to just do it the manual way, and just to kind of go over everything that you can do here. So this is the map I'm going to edit. Right now there's nothing, so what I will do is go over to my sidebar. We're going to add a couple network assets. So once I click here, you can see all the items that I have to choose from. These are just items that I put into the system manually. And then just one that's auto-detected. When this sees all of your network, if you decide to let it look around, it'll have all of them loaded as well as any neighbors that it sees. And it'll calculate the neighbors via CDP, LLDP, routing adjacencies, anything such as those. I'm going to pick two of the MXs that I have here. We'll put in number one. We'll save this. Pick that there for now. And now I'm going to want to resize these. You have a couple ways to resize these. You can drag them, or you can click them. When you click on them, if you go down, you'll see a height and width selection. If you have photos in the system for a device chassis type, it will generate those photos in your maps. Otherwise, you'll just get a generic. Right. If you have photos of your devices in the system, it will generate those inside your maps. Otherwise, it's going to just use a generic box. So, for example, if I was to look up the MX480s that I have here, these are just stock photos that I grabbed offline, and you'll see the photo that I put in there. When you create that profile, you can name it whatever you want. Click on photo only from the drop down. Make sure the chassis model matches what gets discovered when it pulls up in the system. And then upload your photo. This is just a generic stock photo. You could add in whatever you want. If you want to make it more realistic, you can edit your own line cards in and whatnot. Give it the right RU size, save it. And then when you go to insert it into the map, you'll get a generic looking diagram with the correct photo. So this to me seems like it's a good enough size. So I'm just going to see what value I've got here. So 400, 520. Like I said, you have two ways to do it. When you want to resize these, drag and drop, you can select them all and then edit it. Now you have a couple options here just to see. You can change your asset type, which I want to keep these as network routers. Most of this will get set once it's auto-discovered on the network. You can change the shape size, text alignment, all that stuff. This group lock, what happens is if you set this, if I were to set this right now, I'll just show you. When I go to move these, they're going to move together. So they keep these as a group. If I want to get rid of that, I can go in, select the object, and edit it. I can either go with select all, I can either go to each of them and highlight one, or if I want to go and just click one, I can remove the group on there. I can say detach this item, save it, and now I should be able to move the items separately. But sometimes you'll just want to keep this together so you can, if you rearrange your map a little bit, it'll stay put. So I have couple different options. This is depending on what you're inserting into the map. So if you've got something like a mux you want to flip on its side, you can do that. Um, do whatever you want as far as changing the orientation. Um, this is the change size. You can change the graphic mode if you want a stencil only or photo only. Otherwise, it's going to try and do it automatically. So it's going to look at photo first, stencil, then the shape. So if either of these are loaded into the system, I put as many of the stencils in as I could think of to kind of cover generic network shapes for diagrams and whatnot. Um, Personally, I kind of like the photos instead. This section is generally auto-filled from the system. And then there's the same thing here. You can add in the classification if you want, and I'll show you what that does real quick. So if I save this, we're going to just orient these kind of like this. So now again, like I said, if I want to keep these in one spot so they don't move on me, I'm going to lock these into the same group ID. So now when I move them, they stay put. And then what I'll do is I'll build just a quick couple of links here to each of these. So now when you edit these, if you go into, because these are not detected devices, so these are just placeholders, but you can go into your unmanaged devices and you can edit them here. So when I edit these, and this will take a second to load because I gave this profile a test port profile of pretty much every possible interface I could think of. Normally what happens is this is going to read your router when it finds it on the network, and it'll just populate all the interfaces that are on it. So you don't have to do this. This is overkill. As you can see, there's a couple thousand interfaces I can pick from. And this is just what I had AI generate for any possible combination or whatever. You won't have that many. So what I'm going to do is I will just take and draw a couple lines. And just as a demo as well, if I want to categorize these, for example, as just my core routers, I can core routers, set my selected. Now what happens is these are classified as core routers. These are going to be my core switches, or my customer facing switches. So now, if I don't want to see all of these, I can click on this and hide or show each one of these. And this is what I was saying, kind of comes in handy if I want to just hide and show a network path, like a physical wire path. So instead of having an entire map of one, um, like the entire map for the whole hub, for example, like say 1,000 fibers, I can just limit one. So now what I'm going to do is give myself a couple connectors. Otherwise, I can drag and drop like a line to these things. But I want to add in a couple just to make it look a little bit better. By default, these boxes all get generated with one connector on each of them. You can change this if you want to add more. So you go down to here where it's got connectors and connections and interfaces. I'm going to give this 11 on each side. And now you'll see that I've got 11 connection points. And again, you can build however you want. Now I have multiple connectors here. I'm going to give myself a couple connection points. So if I add a network asset and I go up to, you can't see it, but there's a connector up here. And I'm going to say I want 1, 2, 6, 8. Should be a good one. And then what'll happen, it'll, by default, it's going to generate auto random names for these. So I'm just going to orient these where I kind of want them. Tip. So when you insert any wiring information and it draws the lines, they're all going to be the same color. But when you go to draw the lines one at a time, they're all going to be different. So if I were to go and draw this line up to here, we'll give this guy, and stick that here. You'll see that it generates a generic connector label. So if you click into this line, it'll give you the connection link label that it uses. You can name this whatever you want. So I'm just going to get rid of it for now. If it's in the wiring database, it's going to kind of label it with what it knows. Otherwise, it's going to do a best guess, and because the names on these are generated with random names, they kind of get long at first. So right now we have 3 different color lines. I want to change that, so I'm going to go ahead and select them all. And then I'm going to bulk edit these, and I'm going to just give this color blue. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. We'll change the link on this to link 2. All right, so now if I go to move these, you'll see that these move, but the wiring does not. So I want to do the same thing just to group them all together. I'm just going to call this my final easy connection or router setup. And I'm going to group these as ISP test router 1. Test routers. Give that a green and an orange. And then I'll lock them all together. You can make your own custom key, doesn't really matter. But that's if the map gets big and you want to do that, you can kind of group things by, say, circuit ID or whatnot. So now if I move this whole thing, it should stay there. So the nice part about this now is we're going to call this our base map for just this part of the map. If this changes, then anything that uses this is going to change, and I will show you in a second what I mean when I say that. If I were to go and I want to edit this next customer, well, actually, let's create one. Let's see, P customer needs one. Names don't matter. We'll group this as customer feeds. You can do whatever you want. You might have video, residential, digital cable, whatever. So I'm going to call this my customer feeds. Now let's say I want to use that map. I'm going to go ahead and add in via the network asset and then an embedded diagram. And then it's going to give me the map that I want to use. So I'm going to do the core router one. You can either lock it in place when you're done. You can give it a border, which kind of already has. Um, and then you can change the border color. So we'll give it this for now. And let's insert that for now. We can rearrange this border. So this is its own entity in this map now, but it's getting all its information from the original drawing. So I can move it wherever I want. And then just to double check, we'll see that this says link to. And then if I go here and edit it, now I can see my link to has gotten its new label. If my mouse would act up, stop acting up today. Now, if I want to roll that back, there's a history here. You can kind of see what's been done. And now I can show it and see what was done. And this is what it used to be. So now I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to restore it. And now that's the same. So if I go back to my customer map, this will have the new info take effect as well. So the next part I'm going to do is I imported a couple DWDM muxes just as a test. So what we'll do is we'll use that as a patch panel example. So I picked a couple random ones that I found. And you can see them here. So you can insert these into there, and then we'll create a patch panel insert that has all the customers in there. From here, I just used what I found as the names. So you can change these to whatever. So if you want to use channel whatever, and then you want to append a customer name, customer 1, return, customer 2, transmit, oops, customer 2, receive, customer 2, transmit. You can do this all the way down the line. You can put whatever you want. I'm only going to do 4 of these for now. So 2 customers with a transmit and return. We'll save that. All right, so for this, I created another map called ISPS or ISP DWDM set 1. If I could speak today, this would be perfect. This is going to be an example where I just have one DWDM mux going out from the hub to the field. This is just an easy example of setting up components to the map. You can put all of this in one giant map if you want to. I find it's easier to edit 1 or 2 sections here and there instead of finding it all in the map. If the map does kind of get big, depending on how you like to draw your stuff, there is a section where if I was to load this and I reset my panels back to normal, you can see everything you have here. So these are your link connections. So these are these component points and your links between them. These are your objects. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. Link connections are the wires between the two. This is pretty much any object. So a link is an object, the QFX would be the object, etc. Now you have all of these, you can click on focus, you can edit them here, and then you can delete them. This just makes it easier to find it. So if I want to look at just my 480s, then my 480s are right here. And then I can either focus on one or the other. So now if I go back to my DWDM patch panel, I'm going to set it up real quick. Like I said, I'll fast forward through the thing so you don't have to watch the boring part. If you have questions, feel free to write them in the channel comments or whatever, and I'll look at them. I kind of like to get rid of this so I can see my entire page. You can also, like I said, do full screen. Dealer's choice. So what I'm going to do, and for now we'll just do one, because we'll just assume that each customer is on the same mux, something simple. So it's just a different transmit and receive. Or we could do two, doesn't really matter. So I'll put one here. So now this would be my mux. Now you can expand it, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to give this enough for the 4 customers. I can, for attachment points. You can auto insert and then prep the entire thing, which is recommended if you wanted to do that. And then all you have to do is change labels. I'm just going to do this for the custom reports that I labeled. So you'll see down here that these are the custom reports that I have labeled here. And I'm only going to insert these. You can tell the system to insert all of these, and it'll give you kind of a fake patch panel. So it'll give you attachment points. So when you run it from your router or your switch to the mux, you'll have somewhere to attach it to. So if I go here, and once I select this and this populates everything, I'm going to go and change this to selected interfaces, clear them all. I really only want this one, this one, this one, this one, and I don't believe it inserted, well, it did, common port. Okay, so I didn't remember if I built a common or not. So we're going to insert these interfaces here. And then I'm going to tell it that I want to give it a couple connector pairs between them so I can rearrange them a little bit. And then I want them to go to the left of the source for now. And then what that'll do is actually insert that here. And I missed a step. Actually, I have to click the patch. So this inserts the patch ports. And now I have an easy little box like this. By default, it might look a little messy. All of these are attached, so they'll move together. You can do the same thing before and ungroup them or leave them in one. So what I'm going to do is give myself, these two for attachment ports, and then these will just move to the side so I can make it look a little bit nicer. You can delete them, use them, do whatever you want. So, okay, here's a super simple diagram that I'm going to use for my customer feed next. All right. So I created my simple DWDM feed. Now I'm going to create my customer feed. You can see this still has that particular setup for the routers. I'm going to add my embedded diagram. We will do the first DWDM set. Give this a different border color. Now I'm going to move this wherever. Put this down here. Yeah. So that was to simulate just a couple easy customer connections. Um, I'll just add a couple connectors here. And then this depends on how you have it set up. So you can do whatever you want. For example, I just did something stupidly simple. When you label your MUX info, you could put customer circuit ID or the fiber number in your hub or wherever whatever you use to track your connections. This is just to kind of show that this may be a single fiber, but it splits off into a transmit and return. I'm not going to worry about color changing of the lines, but I can do the same thing here and just make them the same color across. You can do that auto select for everything if you highlight it, or you can just click them as well. Either works. And we'll leave these as the names. I'm just using this as a demo, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But you kind of get the gist of it. So you can. This is a short edit. I noticed I didn't put this in here, but when you go to connect these wires together, you can just go down and pick the interface that you're connected to. If this was a box that it discovered on the network, you would see interface information. So the interface and then the description. Right now, there's nothing here. So I'm just going to pick these. And then when you do that, these links will get updated as well. So you'll see the interface. And then if there's a description, you can show it. If not, you can always just click on it to go into it and see it. That's it. Do whatever you want as far as setting up the maps. You can move each of these items around wherever you want. Right now they're locked into place in the main one. So they're going to stay locked here unless I unlock them. And then once you go through, so let's just say I keep this like this and I want to add more. I can do the same thing and edit that. And let's just say I want to add another one. I can go here and then I can go through and add selected interfaces. So we already have customer 14, 15, 16, and 17. So we'll do, let's just say we're adding a new one. We can do that. We'll insert another connector, insert those patches. So let's see, went to the wrong side. So with this, if we don't insert them all in there at the same time, it's going to group them up again. And we'll give you another patch. But what you can do is take and edit this. All right. So you don't need all of these. You can delete them and just use as many as you want. I just left it in as default of 3 for now. Sometimes you might want to hook them up to something else, like a different type of patch. So you can take and drag these over while keeping the label and then just remove the connectors. So if I was to say draw a logical map of me patching it to another patch panel, I could do that. So now if I go to my customer feeds, this now has the new customer info, and I can just tag onto that and do whatever. So that is just one quick example of that. The other one is if I were to assign this a circuit ID. So let's just say I go into my wiring database, and I already carved out a few just for giggles, but let's say I wanted to use this circuit ID for this customer. Um, I can go back to the map, and now I can generally either multi-select, or I could just click on this guy, and you'd have to do it for each one of these, but you can select all of these, and then this guy, and then bulk edit, assign the circuit ID, or if you were to do this single-handedly, one at a time, you could assign the circuit ID, and it will auto-complete, and then you save it. So now what happens is this will label your circuit diagram with that circuit ID. And if you were to click on this and go to open, this is going to take you to the wiring diagram data for that, and you can either fill out whatever, or you can look at whatever it's set up. This is not set up to reflect this. It says junk data, but you get the gist. So that's just another quick example of a little bit more of an advanced diagram, and it's easier. Um, once it discovers items on the network, you can just click the item and say insert any discovered neighbors. There are none here, and then it will insert anything that it finds. So then, like I said, all you have to do is kind of rearrange all of this to however you like it. All right. Any questions? Let me know.